Unleash the power of knowledge and connect with the heartbeat of the African diaspora. Download our African Diaspora News Channel app now on Google Play and Apple App Store. Stay informed with authentic and diverse perspectives, breaking news, and cultural insights. Immerse yourself in a community that celebrates unity, resilience, and progress. Experience the vibrancy of the diaspora at your fingertips. Don't miss out. Empower your perspective today. Search African Diaspora News Channel and join the conversation. My name is Naledi Mfoloe, and it is my absolute pleasure to welcome you to the latest edition of the African Diaspora News Channel, where we unravel the stories that shape our world and our community. Now, the US President Donald Trump has made a controversial offer to actually take in white South African farmers fleeing alleged persecution in South Africa. But as much as Trump has framed this as an act of goodwill, I do have to ask, right? Why are these farmers refusing the offer? And frankly, should we even care? Now, Trump signed an executive order to cut US aid to South Africa, citing land reform policies. And in his view, South Africa is heading down a path of racial injustice, and he's offering a refugee status to Afrikaners who are actually the descendants of the early Dutch and French settlers who claim to be facing racial discrimination in South Africa. But here's the catch, right? Those who benefit from this offer are not taking him up on it. And why? I mean, it doesn't make sense, right? Let's have a look at this video.
We don't want to move elsewhere. We are not going to ask our children now to move to another country. The fact is, our ancestors worked hard to make sure that we as a people are formed down the southern tip of Africa. We're not going to disrespect that. We also have the interests of future generations in mind. We also have to make sure that our culture is transferred to future generations. And that cannot be done abroad. You cannot, in the long term, or there's a real risk. If you go to another country now, there's a real risk that your grandchildren will not say to you in the morning, "Hello, Opa." They would say something like, "Hi, Granddad," or something in that respect. And that we don't want. That is why we are committed to find solutions locally.
Now let's break this down, right? The land reform bill that President Cyril Ramaphosa recently signed was actually designed to correct the glaring racial land ownership disparities that date back to colonial rule. I mean, right now, white South Africans control 73% of privately owned farmland, despite making up 7.2% of the population. And the bill, which allows for the land expropriation without compensation, is aimed at addressing the scars of apartheid and ensuring that Black South Africans who were dispossessed of land and resources during apartheid can finally access the land they were denied for so long.
We were very, very scared. The police were saying, whether you like it or not, you will be moved.
Under the Group Areas Act, the attempt is now to separate out your colored people, your mixed bloods, your Indian group, your African group. This is apartheid. The state of being apart.
Town was the very first population removal. 60 to 70,000 people were pulled out of their homes by force. Their homes were bulldozed behind them.
I was born and bred here in Town. It was called Little Harlem. We had jazz, we had gangsters, you had dancing clubs where people would dance against each other. There was so much going on in Town that the birds had to fly backwards to keep the dust from their eyes. We had all nationalities. We had Zulus, Chinese, Indians, and we lived in harmony together. It was also unique because people could own property, and it was unusual because the whites didn't want people to own the land.
The more that legislation for apartheid is pushed through Parliament, the greater the opposition aroused among the Africans.
They wanted us to be moved far away from town so that they can take Town and turn it into a white suburb. People fought that they should stay here because they were here first. So if the government wants to move us, they will have to do so by force. We had just finished having supper when we had a big knock at the door. They came with these big government trucks. They would come late, load everything onto the trucks while the soldiers and the police were standing there with guns. And you know, as a child, they seem huge. And then after it was loaded, they told us, Clement the truck. You just have to follow the rules, what they were saying, so that nobody in your family gets injured or killed. They told us that they are taking us to a new house.
Now, Trump's move to offer refugees to these Afrikaners paints a picture of oppression. And when you ask white South Africans about the idea, many are not jumping to the bandwagon. And take, for instance, right, the 78-year-old Neville van der Merwe from Cape Town. When asked about leaving the country, he said, and I quote, right? He said, if you haven't got any problems here, why would you want to go? I mean, for some, right? So life continues as normal. There is no sense of impending danger, no mass persecution, no genocide, as some right-wing groups have suggested. And here's the kicker. These groups, like AfriForum and the Solidarity Movement, who are pushing this narrative of victimhood, don't want to leave either. I mean, they love South Africa too much, despite all the complaints about the ANC government. So why is Trump offering refuge if those who are being offered it aren't even interested? Let's have a look.
Now joined by a farmer, Ruan Krokamp. So maybe just confirm if indeed you are Afrikaner and you are South African.
Goeiemiddag, ja, ek is 'n Suid-Afrikaner by bloed en ek sal altyd ene wees. Ek sal nie in 'n ander land kan bly nie.
Yeah. You won't go and live in any other country. But what do you then make of this executive order, which has so much implications for South Africa?
Well, all I can say is that Donald Trump must leave his things in America and we can stay in South Africa. So, yeah, dis ons land en ons wil hierso bly.
What are you farming?
I'm farming broiler chickens now and we're starting with pigs also. Yeah.
So in other words, you are not going to take up this offer by the Americans for you to go and be a refugee in the United States?
No, I'm not a refugee. Me, I come from South Africa. I'm indigenous from here. Yeah, I'll maybe go take a holiday there, but I won't go to stay there. Yes.
He says that the government of South Africa is doing very bad things to you and your community. Is that the sentiment you have?
Well, no, our government is very good to us. They actually just fixed our road there on the gravel road and they're building RTP houses for the people, and that actually boosts our business because now there's going to be more people buying chickens from us and eggs and also pig meat and so on. So I think that the government is actually doing good for us now.
The organization AfriForum is taking the flag, with many South Africans blaming them. On the one hand, they are saying that they are fighting for the rights of the minorities, the Afrikaners in this country. Where do you stand on this whole issue, particularly where people are blaming AfriForum for this mess we find ourselves in?
Well, I don't know about AfriForum because I don't know anything about him. So, yeah, I can't answer that. Sorry.
Yeah. But generally, do you see any future for you and the Afrikaner community in this country?
Yes, there's a very good and bright future for us. I've got my son. He's also, we are working hard for him for a future here. So I wouldn't see him growing up in another country. I don't think we would survive in another country.
What then would be your message to people who, both South Africans and Americans, who are spreading this message that the government in South Africa is persecuting Afrikaners community?
I think they should stop spreading lies and propaganda because it's all fake news. So, yeah, they should stop spreading propaganda. There's crime in every country. So, I mean, we solve our own problems here.
I mean, let's just be real, right? It all boils down to privilege. White South Africans, no matter how much they cry prosecution, actually understand the extent of their privilege in this country. For decades, they have controlled the economy, the land, and the social structure. And sure, right, things have changed since 1994. But the foundation of inequality still exists till this day. And Trump's statement is not new, right? It's the same narrative spun by groups like AfriForum who claim that they actually being oppressed by the black majority rule.
Now, sick and tired of all these farm murders, and we are here once again in front of the American Embassy to show our disgust in our government that has now gone ahead with the approval of Section 25 yesterday. And we want the international community to take note that they are legalizing theft, property theft. That's what they are aiming to do.
I believe all property, your shirt can also
Not just property, anything that you own, your cars, anything. And the bottom line of the story is normal human beings have to come now and do something because we are sick and tired of being hammered down, and we have taken our whole lives to pay for our home. Why must we now just lose it because of this Section 25? I've taken 20 years to pay and I'm still paying my house. Why must we now, after all these years working, must we give it up? For what?
Absolutely.
But let's look at the real stories that challenge this narrative now, shall we? Right? Now, take the case of Maria Makgato and Lucia Ndlovu, two black women who were brutally murdered and fed to pigs by a white farmer and his two accomplices. Or let's consider the case of the white farmer who broke the legs of a 6-year-old black boy just for picking an orange near his fence. Or what about the recent story of a farmer's wife from Owl North who killed her husband and later staged it as a farm attack by a black person? I believe that these are the stories that paint a very different picture than the one of the oppressed white farmers fleeing South Africa. Where are the global cries for the justice when these atrociousness actually happen? Honestly, the narrative of black people attacking farmers just doesn't hold up when we look at the facts. For every farm attack story that's been sensationalized by the media and used to fuel fear, there are countless untold stories of black South Africans being violently abused and killed by white farmers. It's not a one-way street or victimhood like some want to claim. So when Trump offers a haven for white South African farmers, I honestly say let them go. If they truly believe that their lives are in danger, then the United States should take them. The truth is, these farmers have been living on stolen land for generations, and while I believe in the pursuit of justice, we mustn't forget that the wounds of apartheid and colonialism run deep in South Africa. And the Land Reform Act isn't about revenge. It's about fixing historical wrongs. Because as we move forward, let's ensure that we're not repeating the lies of the past and that we don't allow ourselves to be distracted by false narratives. Because the reality is simple. If you've been given a head start, you honestly can't cry foul when the race begins to level out. And South Africa has a long road ahead of it, but I believe this is our road, and it's our time for the truth to finally come to light. What are your thoughts on this? Please, let's continue the conversation in the comment section. We really want to hear from you. And while you're at it, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. That's it from me. Till we meet again, it is goodbye.